Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I want to cover how fast could you expect your next stimulus check if and when, hopefully when, the next stimulus package is ultimately passed. So the good news is that you'll be receiving your checks a lot faster under the next stimulus package than you did under the CARES Act that was passed back in March. That was the first and only stimulus check so far. As far as any new packages or any news with the next stimulus package, we have only so far that skinny package, the skinny scaled back version of a relief package that Republicans are expected to draft and discuss. Then we also have the fact that the House was called back to vote on a brand new USPS rescue package. Nancy Pelosi called back the House to be in session to vote on a USPS rescue bill. Now, according to Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin back on August 2nd, he had said that they're only going to need just 1 week to send out the next stimulus check when that next bill does hopefully get passed. That's only about a third of the time that it took the IRS to prepare the first round of payments under the CARES Act that was passed back in the end of March. So what we're going to do is look at some potential dates of when the next package would be agreed upon, and then we'll go from there and look at when you would receive your next payment. A little birdie also told me that if you want to speed up your next stimulus payment, then you're going to want to be sure to smash the like button on this video. I just heard, it's a rumor, it's hearsay, but it could potentially speed it up, and it's free, so why not try it out? Smash the like button on this video for me. It will just help with that YouTube algorithm. YouTube will push the video out to even more people, so everyone will be in the know. So it helps out everyone when you do that, and it also supports me. I greatly appreciate when you smash that like button. Thank you very much. And if you're brand new here, my name is Logan Cohn. I do videos essentially every single day now, covering business, finance, investing, entrepreneurship, mindset, strategy, and tips and tricks from my own experience. I also do the stimulus check and stimulus package updates. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you are going to want to consider subscribing to my channel, hit that big red button, and also hit that notification bell as well. That will just notify you every single time I make a new video. One potential scenario is that Democratic and Republican negotiators are called back into session towards the end of late August to start discussing a bill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called back the House into session to discuss the U.S. Postal Service bill. However, it's unknown whether or not discussions for next stimulus check will continue. What's more probable is for discussions to resume into September after lawmakers have returned from vacation. But on top of all this, the Republican National Convention, the RNC, begins on Monday, August 24th, and then that will run through next Thursday. We just had the Democratic National Convention, and so the Senate is adjourned until after Labor Day. That's September 7th. So here's some possible dates in which the next stimulus bill could pass, and then when the IRS can start sending out the first round of payments. And to preface this, not all the payments go out to everyone at once. Some groups get it before other groups, depending on your income level and so many different factors, but we're also going to look at the timeline for the CARES Act as well. So this chart shows the timeline of the CARES Act. This is the original bill, and that was passed by the Senate on March 25th. It was passed by the House on March 26th. It was signed on March 27th. And then finally, the first checks were sent on April 15th. Now, it looks like it was so efficiently done and swiftly passed when you look at it in that respect with that visual. But the fact is that that's a very reductive version of what actually happened. There was plenty of revisions, there was stalling, and of course, there were a ton of problems and issues that arose with the systems in sending out these checks. But now let's look at some dates when the next package could pass and then when people could start getting their checks. So hypothetically, if the final negotiated bill is passed by the Senate on September 8th, and then the House passes it on September 9th, then the President would sign it September 10th, the first checks could be sent out on the week of September 21st. If the Senate passed the bill on the 10th, then the House passed the bill on the 11th, and then the President signed it on the 14th, then the first checks could potentially be sent out on the week of September 28th, and that would be the same scenario if the Senate passed it on the 14th, the House passed it on the 15th, and then the President signed it the next day on the 16th. It could also go out on that week of September 28th. But to emphasize, that does not mean that all Americans would get their checks on that date. There's going to be delays just naturally, and some groups get their checks before other groups. So who would ultimately get their checks first? Well, it's likely that the IRS would use roughly the same calculations and tools for sending out the second stimulus check as it did for the first one, including the IRS Get My Payment tool for tracking your stimulus check payment and signing up for direct deposit. The IRS sent the first batch of stimulus checks to people who had filed their 2018 or 2019 tax returns and had already provided the IRS with their direct deposit information. This is according to the House Committee on Ways and Means. Following that model, the next stimulus payment could first reach people who've already registered for direct deposit, either as part of their 2019 tax filing or before. The second group of individuals who received their stimulus checks were Social Security beneficiaries who had direct deposit information on file with federal agencies already. That was about 80 million people who got their checks through direct deposit in the first week that they were dispersed, according to the IRS. A good chunk of Americans, of course, signed up for paper checks as opposed to direct deposit. So when did they get their checks under the CARES Act? Well, paper checks didn't start getting mailed out until about a week later to people who hadn't signed up for direct deposit, but you could still register for the electronic bank transfer as late as May 13th. Then a small percentage of Americans opted for a debit card and got a debit card in the mail in which that money was already loaded. So the fourth group of people, the first economic impact payment debit cards, which are prepaid, began going out in mid-May to about 4 million Americans. And then finally, we don't live in a perfect world. There are still people who did not receive the first stimulus check, and that's what you would categorize under, we'll call it the fifth group. So under the fifth group, this is really anyone who received their checks after June or who is still waiting to receive their stimulus payments. The IRS has said that direct payments will continue through the end of 2020 for some individuals who are not part of the previous groups. Now, of course, you can't put all the blame on the IRS. There's just naturally going to be ignorant and oblivious people who don't know how to use a device and don't know how to go on a website or change their information. And so that's probably a good chunk of people and why they didn't receive their stimulus checks yet. But it is worth noting that even if you are considered one of the previous groups that I mentioned, one of the first few groups, you still might actually be receiving your checks later than other people, and there's a few reasons why that is. One factor that plays a role is the fact that there's going to be changes to how much aid a dependent would get, and this will mostly depend on which bill eventually does get passed. So for example, the CARES Act allotted $500 for dependents age 16 and under, but the Republican-backed HEALS Act, which we've covered a few times on this channel, also allocates $500 for dependents of any age. But the Democratic-backed HEROES Act, which is unlikely to be passed as it's already considered a non-starter, dead on arrival by Republicans, that bill, or let's say there's a variation of it, that bill suggests that $1,200 for a maximum of 3 dependents would be sent. So if a change is made, even if it ultimately leads to more money being sent, it could require the IRS to adjust its accounting system, and that may potentially slow things down for you. Another reason is, like I said, that group of people who just didn't naturally change any information and they weren't proactive about getting their stimulus checks. With the first checks, people who did not submit their direct deposit information to the IRS had to wait longer to get their checks through the mail. As of June, 120 million people have received the stimulus money via direct deposit, and 35 million were sent a check in the mail, and then 4 million people were sent a prepaid debit card. So far, the IRS has not provided an update on how many people received their checks by August 1st, so we are still waiting for that information, but virtually every single American that was supposed to get a check did get a check. There's also the possibility of how fast you'll get your checks depends on your bank status, and that has actually been found to disproportionately affect African Americans in the United States. In fact, according to an analysis by the think tank Urban Institute, people who were white and whose incomes were above the poverty line were more likely to have received their first stimulus check by the end of May than people who were black, Hispanic, or below the poverty line, and that's what the analysis found. You might also not receive your check as quick as other people if you didn't make a lot of money in 2018 or 2019. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, if you did not make enough money in 2018 or 2019 to be required to submit a federal income tax return, then you would have only received your stimulus checks had you sent in a form to the IRS. And because of that, this also significantly impacted low-income families with children and people of color, Black Americans. Now, it's worth noting that while the first package and stimulus checks are a great example to go by and they could definitely provide an indication, there's no official final news until the next rescue package is reached and agreed upon and then signed into law by the president. The IRS is expected to send out a grand total of 200 million payments and checks once the agency is done with the first raft of payments. Right now, according to the Census Bureau, the US total population is over 330 million. And if one of my subscribers are watching right now and they still have not received their first stimulus check, then there are some tools that you can use to go ahead and try to speed things up. You can track the status of your stimulus check, you can learn how to report your no-show check to the IRS, and you can also find possible reasons why your stimulus check still hasn't arrived, and I'll link some of these resources down below in the description for you, just to help you guys out. As of right now, we're still remaining vigilant, keeping a careful eye on when the next stimulus package will be passed, seeing if Congress will take any new action. They are considering that skinny package, but of course that does not include a stimulus check, but it does include directives on unemployment, and that will be negotiated if that does get passed. But I do hope you enjoyed this update. Hope you got value out of it. If you did, be sure to do click that like button, smash the like button for me, and if you'd like to see more videos on my channel, I post videos every single day, almost every single day now, guys. We're doing pretty much daily uploads. And if you are appreciating that, if you respect that, click that like button once more for me. You could hit it twice. Well, if you hit it twice, it might unlike the video, so you are going to want to hit it. You can hit it multiple times, but make sure that when you do hit it that final time that it remains blue and lit up, so that way you have liked the video. But if you want to see more videos on my channel covering business, finance, investing, entrepreneurship, mindset, strategy, and tips and tricks from my own experience, be sure you do subscribe to my channel. I also do these stimulus check and stimulus package updates. So if you're interested in any of those topics, consider subscribing. And if you want to be notified every single time I make a new video, so you're first line to see it before anyone else does, click that little notification bell as well, so you're notified every single time I make a new video. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one.